To receive instant notification each time I upload, please hit the subscribe button and the bell notification.
Lockhart Perspective. Helping you along the way. Helping you to make it through another day. Yeah. Everything you need to know that you never knew, that you need to know. Lockhart Perspective.
Well, hello and good afternoon to each and every one of you. I'm so glad to be here with you today, this wonderful Friday, May 6, 2022. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. We are looking specifically at some of the things that are going on right now with the Biden administration as it relates to opening up the ways of citizenship. And that's the way that I see it. There are a lot of things that are going on right now. And specifically, when I glean what's happening in the government we're going to look at Mayorkas and some of the things that he did with regards to this czar, as it were. And then we're also, of course, looking today at the I say, Biden administration, because I truly do feel like, yeah, it's the gang's all here. In other words, the gang is all here. How about that? So let's get right into some of why I feel the way that I do as we cover a few of the stories that each and every one of you have at one point or another seen or read here in the most recent past. Looking at the Epoch Times, there was a story that basically said that the Biden administration grants Ukrainians U.S. temporary protected status and that ICE pauses the deportation flights. Now, this was back in March. But ironically, the story reared its head again just recently when we look at the temporary protected, or the TPS status, um, as well as the fact that the federal government went on to extend the work permits for thousands, and I do mean thousands of immigrants. So let's start with that story. So this story was posted on May the 5th, 2022. Okay. And hey, Mike, I see you're the only guy over here saying anything, and I don't want to ignore you. I want to say hi, Mike Guyver. How are you? So let's go right ahead and get into the story. So now, the federal government on Tuesday extended temporary work authorization for a broad array of immigrants who are awaiting their final immigration papers. The United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, the agency in charge of work permits and permanent residency as well as naturalization, granted an automatic 540-day extension of work authorization to immigrants awaiting their papers. The new extension is an expansion of the 180-day extension that the USCIS last updated in November. So now, if you've got a pen and pad, you're going to want to write those numbers down. Hello, how are you there, Leslie Barnes and my brother, Charlie Sigler? You're going to want to write those numbers down because in the end, I'm going to mention something to you. For those of you who are here, I want to thank you. Please make sure that you hit the like button because that lets the good old buddy by the name of Algo know that there's something going on over here. Okay, something good. All right, so it does go on to tell us that they expanded it. So we've got a first 180-day extension that was granted by the USCIS in November of 2021. And then they just extended it again to 540 days, all right, over the original 180. This is very important. The time frame is of extreme importance, all right? All right, so the extensions reflect an administration, it says here, that has sought to make it easier for immigrants to keep their work permits, but hasn't been able to fully implement the reforms at the USCIS to more quickly process the paperwork. Now, in March, the USCIS announced a program to reduce the backlogs that were included by expanding the premium processing for certain applications. Now, this was the possibility for the applicants to pay a little bit of higher fee to get their paperwork processed in a matter of weeks, right? So you were thinking, okay, well, great. Then if we're going to push it through, then apparently they're going to be getting some type of revenue that will sort of offset this for the organization or for this particular arm of the federal government, right? All right, we'll keep listening. So we're thinking they're going to get some extra money, but it goes on to say that many of the changes are reinstating processes that existed before the Trump administration's aggressive slowdown of the USCIS processing and before the pandemic further decimated the agency's capabilities. Still, the agency has been historically underfunded, but the bulk of the agency's budget comes from the application fees. Now, I'm going somewhere because I feel like, well, if it's about money, all right, then you've expedited things, you're going to be able to recoup something. Well, it says here that they have been stagnant at around about $5 billion per year since the year 2019. Now, the 540-day extension means that those existing applicants won't pay fees for new employment authorization documents for that time period. So that just, to me, blew the fish out of the water, because you're telling us you don't have the funds, but then you say, okay, don't worry, we had this expedited way of them getting more money. So there's a lot of things. There's several tentacles to this story that sort of make me scratch my head. But it does say that they're not going to have to pay for the authorization for that time period. And while the automatic renewals should free up the USCIS resources for backlogs in other areas. So, okay, we see. Now, in March, they reportedly had an EAD backlog of 740,000 applications, which, in my opinion, if you have people that are in need of an expedited deal and you're giving them an additional amount of time, go on ahead and take some money from that 740,000 people and, give them, this for that. That's how I see it. Well, while the EAD extensions give workers and employers a sense of security, immigrants with expired but statutorily extended EAD cards can still have trouble verifying their right to work for new employers or getting basic services like renewing driver's license. The employment authorization, if we lose contact, you guys, it's because we're having a storm here. So I apologize for that in advance. But it says the employment authorization is also separate from the travel permits, meaning hundreds of thousands of foreign nationals are not allowed to travel internationally until their applications are formally processed. The 540-day extension will apply to a broad group of EAD applicants, including those granted asylum and asylum seekers and refugees. I want to focus on refugees and not so much asylum seekers, all right? As well as green card applicants, temporary protected status beneficiaries, and some spouses, work visas, among others. Let me come back on the side and chat with you guys for a second and let you know something. So it would appear that what they did is that they are specifically moving the finances around, but they're telling us something. Here's what they're telling us. Because as I did a little research and started digging around, I see that, yeah, they're giving these immigrants something, which to me is a totally different conversation that we can have a totally different day, because there's a soapbox that I stand on when I talk about that particular topic. And I don't want to go there today. I simply want to look at the points. And the point is that there's bureaucracy even after they allow these folks to be brought in with this all that glitters is gold mentality. You see? So we're going to have a lot of disgruntled people that are going to be coming from foreign countries, or that are in this country existing before they had to be here first before they were ever even able to do anything with this. Those people had to be here. So this information comes out to us now, but they had to have already been here. So let me let you see some things. Oh, guess again says the US CIS is financial independent, with revenues from their fees. Right. That is why they don't shut down when the rest of the government does when they can't balance the budget. Very good. Absolutely so. Absolutely so. Timothy Contreras, hello, how are you? And Living Missouri's Outdoor, hello to you. Okay. Hey, how are you? America is no longer for Americans. It is now open to the world. Our leaders are owned by foreigners, and this comes from A. Howell. Okay. All right. Um, Guess again says they hustled me out of $1,800 when my wife was going through the process. Terrible. Okay. And so this is my point right here on the screen is that yes, they present the things that we see here as um, as gold. All right. When we see these type of statements or these types of things going on, it automatically makes the citizen believe or the citizenry believe that they're giving all this great stuff to the folks that are coming in. Aha, here's the rub. The dissension now between those who are being brought here and who are here naturally then becomes, well, you appear to get everything, but there is bureaucracy that I am pointing out because the gold stops, the GOLD stops after these individuals get involved in this entanglement. Why do I say that? Because there's actually TPS, if that's the right word, I don't have it on the screen anymore, the term. Okay. And then there's also asylum. Then there's also refugee. And there's a lot of different verbiage. And then there's even another completely different organization, as it were, that has now been opened up for people who are coming from the Ukraine, except they're not getting a specific set of benefits that, say, an asylum seeker would get. So it's a very tricky pathway. It's almost like, okay, flowers for Algernon. Do you remember the maze? Do you remember the maze the little mouse had to go around in and all? It's like a maze. And it's a maze that's going to build a lot of not only dissension, but confusion. Dissension in that Americans that don't know about most of the stuff in the bureaucracy and the red tape that they're promising to avoid by giving people the ability to come here. Okay. And then the people who come here who then scratch their head and say, well, gee whiz, what's really going on? I thought it was going to be easier than this. So what I'm saying is there's going to be confusion on all sides. Either way it goes, those who distributed these things are not going to feel the brunt of it. You and I, the people who are down here dealing with different things, work and going to work and having to find a job for some, and people who are going back to work for some. And then those are having to deal with folks who are now getting work permits, okay, and the extension thereof and things of that nature. So there's a lot that's going on here. There is a lot that's going on here. And I think that there is no oversight whatsoever. None. Let me allow you to see the story that I do want to look at, something that you can see. And I think it's going to be the temporary protected status for the Ukrainians. All right. And I believe you guys are looking at this. Yes, you are. Excellent. Okay. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. So now the Ukrainians in the United States who may qualify for TPS. So now there's temporary protected status for the individuals who were already here. They were already here. Okay? They can get this. And this is what you see in the story that was published in March. This is the story, basically, that was published in March. But the extension of the work permits also goes for those individuals who were already here when they first announced the TPS. So where am I going? Where I'm going is, who are the individuals who were already here from the Ukraine? The individuals who were already here from the Ukraine, did they all get here from February 24th? Or were there already a bevy of individuals who were already here? And if those people who were already here were, say, already working, then You add the 540 days that they just extended the work permit, plus the original 180 that was given back in um, November, and you have, guess what? You have a citizen in 1 year. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Why do you? Well, because you have to be here for a minimum of 1 year in order for you, as a refugee, in order for you to gain citizenship. So the real question is, who was here? If we already know that the timeline was too tight to squeeze over 150 people coming in here. So there's a very big question as to who it is. Okay? Very big question. And I think that's the more meatier piece of the bone, of what's on the bone, than the fact that they have extended it, or the fact that they have the TPS status that's already been in existence. They just added it on to something else, which is right here. So let's look at this. I'm going to make this bigger for you guys to see it. And these things are very important for us to understand, because we'll have folks running around with driver's license as well as social security cards, as well as, if they are a refugee, they will also be qualified for the social security of it all. Yes, they will. And I'll also provide you with the documentation to substantiate the statement. Okay, so TPS is a temporary immigration status provided to nationals of a country that is experiencing problems that make it difficult or unsafe for nationals to be deported there. The TPS has been a lifeline to hundreds of thousands of people who are in the United States when problems in their home country make their departure or deportation untenable. This fact sheet provides a demographic overview of the population of Ukrainians in the United States who may qualify for TPS and what benefits TPS would confer upon those individuals. On March 3rd, 2022, Alejandro Mayorkas announced the designation of Ukraine for the TPS, stating that Ukrainians who have been continuously residing in the United States since March 1st, 2022, would potentially be eligible for TPS once the designation has gone into effect. March 1st. The issue started February, correct? February the 24th. We're reminded of the date of the unstabilization of that region, okay, forever. So you mean to tell me that from February 24th to March the 1st, those folks are going to be the ones? That means there's some cats they already had here, and those cats needed to have carte blanche or the stamp of approval, and that's the reason why you now see this. Okay? Because you got to consider the timeline, and you can't get that many folk from there to here. All right? Okay? 100,000 plus people. You can't. All right? Even though there were some already here, you can't get any new ones, not that many. So that means that there's somebody special that they're attempting to make citizens. That's my point. That's my point. Because at best, 1 year, you're here. And if you have Social Security needs, even though you've never put into it, don't worry, we're going to give it to you. And we have the information that shows that. So those are the two major things that I did want to talk about as far as that's concerned. But also I wanted to share with you and I'm going to leave these links down below so that you can look them over yourself, because as you know, there are certain things that I'll dig into and certain things that I just will leave for you to look up, because we just sort of want to leave it that way. Okay. But all the links to these articles will be down below, as well as the links for the federal government's sites. Okay. So let's look at, let me show you, this is the one. No, I don't want to dig into that yet, because I already know that'll get me heated. But I do want to show you this. All right. So the 2-year SSI extension for the elderly and the disabled refugees, because they do receive supplemental security income. Okay. And I'll leave this link for you as well. Okay. Now, let's take a quick gander at where we're headed now. All right. At the second half of this, we are going to take a quick gander. I want to thank you guys in advance for any super hearts that you put on any videos that are already up. You'll have to scan through, which would also include any of the Bettina's videos. We have now gotten super hearts. We just learned about that overnight, where the channel, because of you and all that you guys have done for the channel, watching the videos and being engaged, now we are now able to allow you to super heart something after it's been publicized. Okay, so as it's been published, you can do it. You can also leave super chats or super stickers, and it doesn't matter if it's a dollar 10, no matter what it is you give, it helps to keep us researching and bringing information to you. One other thing is, within the next 2 weeks, we will start going live on Patreon so that I do not have to bite my tongue on stories that I know you need to hear the nitty gritty on. Okay. So let's go into the next half of what we're dealing with today. And that is none other than Mr. Uh, number, the guy who's still in office. Okay. The janitor who had the keys, and then they had his party, said goodbye to him on that Friday. He forgot he didn't work there and showed back up to the school with a big old ring of keys and one big shoe and one little shoe all over the cafeteria. He saunters, picking up lunch plates and whatnot. No clue that he no longer works for the company or the establishment, as it were. But let's take a quick glance at Barack Obama. Now, you guys know the other week we mentioned him embracing his new role, promoting censorship, right? And don't think it's strange that we now have a quote unquote censorship czar. Let's not think it's strange, all right? Because that's who he's going to be working with. Because, well, to be honest, I don't ever believe he left, frankly, okay? And the reason why the seated president was wandering around aimlessly at that dinner that day or that luncheon, if everybody has seen the clips, for him to be just walking around while everybody is fawning over Obama, as well as the young lady that's supposed to be the vice president, camel toe. They were all fawning over him because, hey, now they have the opportunity to, in public, say, hi, how's it going? And they paid absolutely no attention to the man who's been in the basement. But with that said, let's go on ahead and take a quick look. This story was dated, I believe, the month before. Yes, April 26th. And it's just a really brief commentary that I'm going to scan, or as I normally say, shanana. And when I shanana, that means I'm skimming it. So the commentary deals with former President Barack Obama does not believe in free speech for his political adversaries. And then here it says, in a speech given at the Stanford University on April 21st, Obama declared himself to be a First Amendment absolutist while calling for social media regulations. The self-described constitutional law professor needs to reread, the author says, the First Amendment and the Federalist Papers to understand how the latter recommendation contradicts his absolutist claim. Let us examine the issue, the author says. They say the First Amendment is crystal clear about the sanctity of free speech guarantees for all Americans. Emphasis added, quote, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. Okay. If Obama truly believed, the author says, himself to be a First Amendment absolutist, then he would have remained silent on the professed need to regulate social media, which has become the modern day equivalent of Revolutionary War era broadsides that were used to disseminate news, announce legislation, recircuit and instruct troops, celebrate great events, or sway public opinion, closed quote. America's found themselves employed broadsides to get the word out to their friends, their neighbors, and others, and helped shape our constitutional republic. But there is another interesting parallel between those broadsides and Twitter. Broadsides, quote, were typically considered ephemeral items to be discarded to throw them away after their original use, close quote, and according to the American Revolution Institute. How better to describe the daily changing narratives, dialogues, debates, and individual tweets on Twitter, except that old tweets, like old broadsides, frequently come back to haunt the originators when embarrassing truths subsequently emerge. The founders did not want broadsides or other free speech to be curtailed or regulated in such a way as to diminish America's ability to engage in dialogue on just about any topic, primarily political. What would they say about the attempts to restrict free speech via social media? Well, for that matter, what would they say about the constitutionality of Section 230, which shields social media companies from lawsuits for content posted by third parties? Over the years, the United States Supreme Court has defined various free speech exceptions, including advocacy of the use of force in imminent actions, also referred to as indictment or incitement, pardon me, to riot. And then, of course, it's citing the Brandenburg versus Ohio in 1969 case. It also talks about obscenity that violates contemporary community standards and threatening the President of the United States. However, none of those exceptions target a reduction in political speech. Any legal attempts to curtail political speech are judged by a strict scrutiny standard in order to provide the strongest possible protections. Now, here is what Obama said, and then I'm going to go into the next story that deals with him. Okay, and this is how we know that he's attached to Mr. Mayorkas' new appointee of a division that only, God himself knows. I don't even know where we just whip out something. Hey, you need a job? Here, I've got an idea. Whoosh, whip it out of your back pocket. There you go. You're employed. All right. So it says what Obama said. Here is what Obama advocated at Stanford University in the way of social media regulations. Quote, a regulatory structure, a smart one, needs to be in place, designed in consultation with tech companies and experts and communities that are affected, including communities of color. For what reason? If anything, the communities of color are the ones that basically get to say what they want to say ad nauseum. And if you consider the fact that when you are adding in a whole lot of other stuff to go along with the community of colors, in other words, when you're giving them other extremities and other problems that they're going to hold on to, and you guys all know what I mean, okay? Bobby and Tommy is now Sally and Susie or whatever. All right. You're giving them these things to hold on to pacify them. Well, why do they have a problem for saying anything? Unless, of course, they look a little bit different. Maybe they are a little shade of olive, but maybe they lean a little to the right. Are you protecting those people? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. So you can't lump us into this. Why? Because if I say what I want to say, well, off goes the color. And then you slide me right over into the right, which I'll take it. No worries. All right. So it says communities of colors and others that sometimes are not well represented here in Silicon Valley that will allow these companies to operate effectively while also slowing the spread of harmful content. And of course, you will tell us what's harmful, right? Right? You're a big daddy, father? Yeah. These seem like altruistic words, especially if he intends to conform to the commonly understood meaning of free speech rights guaranteed under the First Amendment, and that those rights would be upheld for all Americans regardless of their political persuasion. However, during his speech, Obama telegraphed his true reasons for advocating government regulation of social media. If the vast majority of elected Republicans, he says, Republican officials keep insisting that there's nothing wrong with saying an election was stolen without a shred of evidence when they know better, dysregulating social media isn't going to work. But isn't it funny, as I come back on this side just to make a quick comment, Isn't it funny that when things were allegedly stolen on the other side in 2016, that they did everything, including go after people and audit them? They audited folks. They audited folks. They killed. They kicked. They screamed. They said that it was all a sham and that the Marsha, you know what I mean, had something to do with it. Isn't that amazing? But this requires that years later, you're still bitter and you're still going after it. This is amazing to me. But then again, that's the way they roll because they're petty. Nonetheless, I digress. It says that, yeah, I'll read this again. In short, Obama seeks to use the force of government to ensure that social media regulations curtail the free speech rights of those who disagree with the Democratic Party opinions, policies, and objectives, and he would be pleased to reinforce and extend the left wing community standards already being used by social media companies to arbitrarily curtail political speech in precisely the same manner that the Chinese Communist Party uses to monitor and controls Chinese citizens through their use of social credit and control system, which is on the way here in the United States. I added that piece. They did not, but you already know that it's on the way. Yeah, because they have to shift the. It can't be the same cat being the big guy. You know what I mean? So it can't be the United States being the leader of the free world forever. No, they probably give us, the next couple of years after it wanes completely out and they've drained every sense of red American blood out of it, and then they'll move on to China, most assuredly. Yeah, they'll go on to China with full force. They'll go on ahead and allow them to show everything that they've been able to accumulate, including the vast amount of grain and other things that they've been able to tuck under their armpits and run out of the room with very soon here. Yeah, because they have the majority of the grains. They have the majority of the food that they're growing here in the United States and they're moving out. That's probably the only thing that is moving out. Okay, the land that they own here, that they're growing, the farmland that they own here, that they are growing their own stuff here and sending it back there. So they're just being very quiet and low lined, and they are working. Consider the ant, thou sluggard. That's what America's not doing, considering the ant, how they work, even though and they toil. No matter what time, day or night, they're constantly working to do what they need to do. It reminds me of the book, Who Moved My Cheese? That's America right now. Who moved my cheese? I was doing so great. I had everything. I had an overstock. I was in surplus of all my needs. And every time I needed something, I didn't have to go out and work for it. I just went to my stockpile and pulled from there. Well, America has pulled from the stockpile for so long that now that stockpile is empty. And so, who moved my cheese is apropos. This is me, okay? I'll go ahead and finish reading, but that's exactly what I feel is going on right now. We're in the depletion state because we did not keep working. We kept sending everything that we did abroad. Oh, we made a television. Well, here, you can have the patent. You can take that. You can make the TVs, and we'll just buy them back from you. Even though they're cooking us from the inside out, we'll just purchase them from you. It doesn't matter. It's okay. It's all right. Even though you can see us, we don't care. Now, I'm going to talk about something going toward the end because we need to chat about it. But Marty, I see you're here. Hey, sister, thank you for being here. Please remind me not to forget to tell you guys something before I go today. All right. So it says that rest assured, Obama and the Democrats would love to label their political adversaries, many of whom continue to support former President Donald Trump, as insurrectionists, and use that label as justification for banning their speech on social media via government regulations. Suppression of dissent is precisely the Democrats' political goal as they prolong their J6 star chamber farce, which is a hot mess. That's a mess. Okay? Now, here is the piece that really does amaze me. It's titled here, Trump and Musk to the Rescue. Good old Muskie and Mr. Naranga. Just as Trump raised public awareness of the reality of legacy media politicization, Elon Musk is also doing the same for Twitter, the current big dog of social media. The sheer panic exhibited by Twitter blue check pundits, cultural figures, Democratic activists, media pundits, and garden variety of elected Democrats in response to Musk's takeover of Twitter is a big red flag. Their strong reaction signifies they understand that Musk will likely open the books on Twitter's community standards and algorithms that suppress political content that disagree with the left wing Democratic orthodoxy. The same people are also attacking Trump's emerging Truth Social platform because they fear its political threat to the Democratic Party. Let me tell you something. And I'm going to come over here for that because I think I've had enough of this, but I appreciate the author. But it does substantiate what we're talking about as far as this cat, okay? The guy who I believe is still here. But I am going to say that for anybody, as we said before, who thinks that he is the savior, you're sadly mistaken. You're sadly mistaken because he's not. He's not at all. He's not at all. But what Mayorkas has done, before I go into the other part of what I wanted to share, I'm going to go on ahead and give you Mayorkas. And I'm going to tell you that this is most assuredly the ministry of truth. Yeah. Yep, it is. Yeah, it is. Under the shedding chestnut tree, I sold you and you sold me. If you remember that. All right, so a newly formed disinformation governance board remains shrouded in secrecy a week after the Biden administration announcement of the new effort was met with widespread criticism. Well, you don't need to criticize it because we already know who's this person going to be working in concert with. Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Okay, without a doubt. There is little credible information about the new disinformation governance board. Well, it doesn't have to be because we already know who's heading, and this chick is not going to be the lead. She's going to be the puppet. All right? Yeah. And that has made an instant target for criticism. The board, part of the Department of Homeland Security, was announced last week, but DHS has released few details on how the board will function and what powers it will have. Well, they don't have to do all that. Why? Because they just announced to you who was really going to be heading it. They announced it. So DHS Secretary, and it ain't that chick, DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas was attacked again on Wednesday by Republican members of Congress who don't do anything but blow a lot of wind and don't fix anything. I've had it. You know, let me go ahead because I'm about to get on Trey Gowdy, who was there and is not anymore, okay, who used to do a lot of this gallivanting and a lot of the big, almost like a rooster in the middle of the hen yard, throwing the dirt back, you know. He used to say all the things. They used to even tout it as Gowdy mode. He went in Gowdy mode and everybody was sort of happy. Yeah, get him, get him. It was just verbal. It's just verbiage. That's it. It was all words. Okay. He and the other cat that are both now sitting behind a desk, you know, talking. That's cool. All right. But this is just the same. Anytime you tell us about how the Republican members of Congress, who have already called for the board to be disbanded, some civil liberties advocates also worried that the group could violate freedom of speech. Well, yes, it could. Okay. Yes, it definitely could. With disinformation campaigns working to shape the opinions on everything from war in Ukraine to the presidential election in the United States, the rocky start for the board may undermine its effectiveness and hurt the efforts to staunch the harm that false narratives can cause. Let's just get back to the way that it used to be, shall we? If there's something you don't like, turn it off. If it's something you don't agree with, turn it off. Oh, that's too much like right. And it would afford you the opportunity to think for yourself. And we can't have that, can we? Oh, no, you can't have that. You can't think for yourself, baby. No, we got to do that for you. You might hurt yourself. Yeah, because what's in between your ears can be quite dangerous if left unchecked. Look at your biblio. Even your Bible tells you that the devil's playground is your brain. Of course, we are paraphrasing. But of course, you know, they've got to do the thinking for you. It can cause harm. Meanwhile, what do they do to the children as they want to talk about what goes on through social media? Well, you have parents stunted all over the United States, to which I know a couple that I've counseled, some women that I've literally counseled because their children during the pandemic, for whatever reason, got stuck on social media, and their 8-year-olds now are very, very confused as to their very existence. as to what they are. Oh, what? False narratives? Harm? Well, where were the parents? Where was their help when all of that was going on, and still is, by the way? Okay. It says, quote, "It is just an episodic failure," said Brian Murphy, a former director of DHS intelligence arm of the board's launch. He continues, "And it has set the true disinformation professionals wherever they live back." Testifying before Congress on Wednesday, Mayorkas said the board would examine how DHS currently counters disinformation and make sure the agency, quote, "does not infringe on freedom of speech rights, of privacy, civil rights, and civil liberties." You are a liar, and there's no truth in you. You should tell the truth and shame the devil. Tell the truth and shame your pappy. DHS already has an Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties. Quote, "It is going to establish what should have been established years ago: standards, definitions, guidelines, and policies." How about the fact that you guys tampered with something that was there that would stop you even now today? The Smith-Mundt Act, after it was fiddle-faddled with under the current president's former administration that he was a part of, okay? That would have stopped all lies, all propaganda from you, especially you, because that's what the Smith-Mundt Act was instituted for. It was to prevent you from giving up false information. And see, follow the leader as it would be. If you guys had done nothing to the Smith-Mundt Act, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Not at all. Not when you consider how many people own the actual media themselves. How many people actually own media? You got one family, you got another family, and then you got one person, another person, then a group family, and then it's just very few, but they own a lot. So if you guys had just left stuff alone, you wouldn't even be having this conversation. But then again, I guess that's the whole point. Dismantle everything, especially by way of ink pen and talking about this cat with a BlackBerry. Okay, ink pen and BlackBerry is what he said, and it's been that way ever since. So it goes on to say here that it's going to establish what should have been established years ago: standards, definitions, guidelines, and policies, he said. The board's bungled rollout could also hurt existing efforts to identify and stop foreign disinformation campaigns. You mean like the air raid you guys used to do when you were dropping all kinds of false information down on different countries that you do to us now by way of newspaper, both media and in print? Yeah, I guess so. You guys can read the rest of this down below in the description. I don't think I'm going to be able to because, first of all, yeah, I want to keep my breakfast down. And then second of all, you guys will be able to see it because I will leave you the links. All right. Because we're coming up on our hour mark and I don't want to overdo you guys with information. But I just feel like right now we are at a very critical place in our country. We're beyond in that critical state. And the issues that we have right now are monumentous. They're huge. They're humongous. They're gigantic. They're gigantic. This whole purple situation, okay? All right? The whole purple thing, the whole purple ball of it is leading us into a direction that I don't think anybody was ready for. Now, you've got the story that we talked about the other night when we were saying, hey, don't believe it. Don't believe any of this stuff because all they're doing is trying to get you off your game. Stay focused. Don't believe any of it. And it proved its point because now we have Schumer, who we haven't physically seen on screen in a while. All right. And everybody else running around, losing their mind because they leaked information. They leaked information. Ain't nobody crazy. Y'all leaked it. Whether you guys had somebody go in a computer and pull it and snatch it, or you found the person and they went in and took it off the desk, okay? Whatever it is. Okay? Whatever it is. All right. Okay, I'll check it out, Marty. I'll check it out as soon as we're done here. Okay? No matter what it is, you guys were the ones that are involved in all of it. So, as it relates to all of the stuff that we're dealing with, and as it relates to the whole getting out and making yourself vocal about this topic, step back. Let these folks go forward with this trash because all they're trying to do is to throw people off their game for November. They needed fuel. You see, there was no more fuel. There was no more fuel. And so, therefore, they had to create their own fuel. Okay. They had to create it. Hey, Rage, good to see you and Joy and Maureen Olson. Hi. Daryl Calhoun, how are you? Okay. Okay. This is the mess. That is Deborah Johnson. Hello. Aaron James, good to see you, my dear. And Robert Ingram, so good to see you from across the pond. So good to see you. All right. Vincent Brown Scott, how are you today? Okay. So it's just an amazing situation that we are living through. And the one thing that I will tell you is, yeah, keep yourselves girded with the word. Just keep your feet planted firmly. You have no choice. You have absolutely no choice. So if you take, we're going to do the math, right? All right. So if you take that 540 days, and then you that one extension, and then you take the uh, 540 and then the 180, you end up having the amount of time that it takes. Hey, Shelly M, he's doing good. He's doing good. Um, Roy is just fine. Yeah, I'll make sure that he knows that somebody asked about him. I'll call him later. So yeah, so it's just a matter of knowing that yeah, what they're trying to do is bring in their own citizenry, and they're trying to make sure that everything pans out to them having to do no sweat and no work to become. And they have driver license and they have rights and they have everything. Okay? They have everything. All right. But again, it's all tied up in a bunch of bureaucracy because they literally have a brand new division specifically available. Proud American 90, what's going on? And Christ Soldier, hey, it's so good to see you. All right. All right. You see? So they are doing every single thing that they want to do to cause dissension and confusion. Hello, Lady M. It's good to see you, precious. They're doing everything that they can to keep us all confused and keep us all angry. Heck, you know that I stopped even casting a vote. But I tell you one thing: if anything makes me want to just throw a vote out there, it's the fact that I know that they're banking on um, the right, which is now divided. See, the right is divided because you've got Naranga fans and then you've got folks that don't want anything to do with them because of the things that we've seen. And some of us say, hey, I've seen X, Y, or Z, and I don't want anything to do with that. But then you've got those people who were on the fence a long time ago. And you've also got some people, see, that are leaving that other side and that are running for the hills. And so they don't know any other, they don't know the depths that you and I do about what's really been going on, right? So they just might vote on the right hand side. No matter what it is, I don't think I can trust either one. Because when they had the ability to do something to evoke change, the right did not do it. Whether they had information on them, you know, whether they had them dressed up in a wig and a pair of high heel pumps and they didn't want the public to know it, whatever it was, okay? And that's the reason why they went and voted the way that they voted because they didn't want anybody to know about those secrets that only the people who caught them knew. Frankly, I feel like I don't care what you had on. As long as you speak truth and you can say, hey, you know what? I don't know what that picture was they caught me doing. Okay. But I didn't have nothing to do with what they're trying to push through legislature now. So I stopped voting a long time ago. Actually, I voted for Trump, and that was the last time I voted. I voted for Trump, and that was the last time I voted. You see? You see? Because I am not going to be a party to any of that lesser of the two evil thing. Because as far as I see it personally, for me, I don't want to deal with evil at all. I got enough crap going on in my life. If I want to see some confusion, I can just look out the front door. All right. But anyway, you guys, it's been an hour that we've all been hanging out. It's actually been about 50 minutes. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I want to let you know that we do have a brand new sponsor, and it is the company that I get all of my skincare and all of my body products from that buff the skin. For those of you who like to self tan, we've got some new buffing products that we'll be showing you here pretty soon. We're going to be debuting that. So if you want to buff the skin and get your skin prepared for self tanning or for tanning, period, we've got products for that. We've got body lotions, body oils, especially if you get a little ashy, and that means you get a little dry. So we've got a bevy of products that we're going to be sharing with you, some things that I feel that you guys can all use. Again, I want to thank you before we leave for hitting that thumbs up button. Thank you so much for hitting that. And then I also want to thank you guys in advance for any funds that you forward to me to continue to help us to get all the truth and the word out and the things that we're going to do, specifically what's coming up on Patreon that we will be announcing for Patreon Live. Please remember that if you are a Patreon member that was existing, that if you've kept that original Patreon page open, kudos to you. You still have access to any information there. However, neither Bettina's husband or myself have access to that page. So you will have to click the new access line for Patreon on the home screen for this channel to actually access the new lives that we're going to start doing for Patreons only. Okay. Broadcasting, hello, how are you? You say you voted the last time and that was it? Yeah. So, we have a king, and I think it was Joy that said it. You know what I'm saying? You need a sandblaster? Well, you're going to like this stuff, Joy Trujillo. Again, you guys will start seeing those new advertisements for that very soon. So we're very happy to have the new sponsor, and that's a good thing. So we want to thank each and every one of you for being with us. Thank you for anybody. If you did give and I didn't see it, I apologize. If you gave a super chat and I didn't see it, I'm sorry. I still can't see it if you did or didn't. And then if you'd like to, when we're done, go over to some of Bettina's old videos and you can actually leave a super heart there. Okay. I appreciate each and every one of you for being with us today. I want to say thank you. And I want to also remind you what we always say on any Felicia Lockhart group publications, and that is that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes out of the mouth of the Most High. I want you to know that, because the only place you will find truth comes from our Creator himself. You guys take care of yourselves, and then I want you to make sure that you take care of one another. And until we see one another again, please continue to be blessed. Before we go, I want to say hello to Steppenwolf, the Happy Leper. Also, I want to say hi to KEK. All right? All right. And my good old friend, Charlie Sigler. You'll be happy to know that very soon we are going to have our members only trivia over on the Lockhart Perspective, and it is biblical trivia, the Lockhart Perspective. So I hope that people have watched the replays of you winning and beating everybody else. Okay, you guys, I appreciate each and every one of you again. Y'all take care, and we'll see each other again really, really soon.
Lockhart Perspective.
I've always been a unique person, you know what I mean? Sort of laid back in a way, but very adamant and very passionate about what I believe. I think a lot of times that sort of throws people off because they don't expect me to have the mindset or the process of thought that I do. And so when you come in to watch my channel, you may hear a myriad of thoughts and ideas that could be different from others. What I want you to do is just sit back, like, share, and subscribe.